Hey everyone, welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Today we're diving deep into the eerie and chilling world of the Nosferatu comic series. Specifically, we'll explore the first 4 issues of Nosferatu, Plague of Terror, later rebranded as Nosferatu, Sovereign of Terror. If you're a fan of gothic horror, ancient curses, and centuries-old rivalries, this is the story for you. Let's break it down, issue by issue.
Nosferatu.
Chapter 1. The Order of the Sepulchre. Dr. Bronwyn Callan, a determined and perceptive health professional, steps into a grim crime scene in New York City. The setting is eerily reminiscent of another case she worked in Brooklyn just a month earlier. While her colleague, Lieutenant Nykorf, dismisses the deaths as drug overdoses, Callan's years of treating the city's addicts tell her otherwise. These victims have succumbed to the plague. Her sharp instincts set the tone for a chilling discovery as she orders a careful removal of the bodies and instructs officers to secure the area. Among the remnants of death, she finds a mysterious book, The Tragedy of Sir William Longsword, clutched in the hands of one of the deceased. Back at her office, Callan confronts bureaucratic indifference. She warns the mayor about the potential outbreak, advocating for vaccines and isolation measures, but her recommendations are dismissed as impractical. Frustrated but undeterred, she turns to the book, a medieval account dating back to 1250. The story follows Sir William Longsword, a crusader returning from the 8th Crusade, and his squire Otrano as they arrive in Carpathia. Their journey takes them to a castle-turned-convent, now occupied by the Order of the Sepulchre. Inside, they find the nuns dead from the plague, save for one who clings to life just long enough to warn them of the unspeakable horror sealed within the castle, a being she calls Nosferatu. Drawn by curiosity and greed, Otrano opens a heavily secured vault, despite Longsword's warnings. Inside, they uncover ancient scrolls detailing Nosferatu's terrifying legacy. Otrano's defiance costs him his life, and Longsword confronts the creature himself. Baron Orlok, a vampire bound by a dark prophecy. Orlok's resurgence unleashes chaos as he declares Longsword to be the man destined to be forever intertwined with his cursed existence. Their confrontation ends with fire consuming the castle, but not before Orlok seals their fates by sinking his fangs into Longsword's neck. In the present day, Callan is jolted back to reality by a pathology report confirming her fears. The plague is real. Her determination to alert the city is met with a sinister twist when an unfamiliar voice on the mayor's line demands the return of his property, the cryptic book she has been reading. This is just the beginning of a chilling tale where the past and present intertwine, heralding the resurgence of an ancient and deadly evil. Chapter 2. The hand of Kaylee Dr. Bronwyn Callan ventures into an ominous alleyway to confront the mysterious caller, demanding the return of the book. Armed and ready, she challenges him. To her surprise, he claims authorship of The Tragedy of Sir William Longsword, revealing himself as none other than William Longsword himself. When she attempts to arrest him, he effortlessly overpowers her, disarming her just in time to use the weapon on approaching armed threats. As Callan reels from the chaos, she watches Longsword address the lifeless bodies, which eerily respond with a voice that isn't their own. Shocked, she strikes him, but he subdues her again, calmly stating that the situation defies simple explanation. Skeptical but intrigued, she agrees to hear his story, noticing he isn't bleeding from her blow. Longsword cryptically remarks, "Only the living bleed." Settling into a dimly lit bar, Longsword continues his tale. After being bitten by Orlok, he initially believed himself spared. There were no bite marks, and he could endure sunlight. But when villagers attacked him in fear, he realized Orlok's curse had taken hold. Wounds that would have killed a mortal healed almost instantly, confirming his unnatural transformation. Condemned to an existence of conflict and survival, Longsword roamed through history, fighting in wars as Europe reeled under the Black Death. By 1859, he found himself in India during the waning days of the Sepoy Rebellion. Serving as a sergeant in the 2nd Bengal Grenadiers, he assisted Major Moran in pursuing rebels. In one fateful village, they discovered the aftermath of a thuggy cult ritual, with the dead littering the ground. Among the carnage, a survivor emerged, a woman named Rani. She revealed her grim story. Chosen as a sacrifice to the dark goddess Kali, she had escaped, only for her people to suffer a devastating curse. Their interrogation was cut short when Thuggee cultists attacked. Longsword fought valiantly, but Moran was mortally wounded and Ron was taken. Before dying, Moran tasked Longsword with her rescue. Tracking the cult to a remote temple, Longsword made a chilling discovery. The high priest orchestrating the rituals was Orlok himself. Orlok stood poised to sacrifice Rana, his influence spreading the plague to punish and manipulate. The Grenadiers intervened, rescuing Ron while Longsword confronted Orlok directly. The vampire taunted him, offering no answers about the curse, and escaped in a swarm of rats. Determined to prevent further devastation, Longsword ordered the temple burned. Rana and Longsword grew close, but their relationship brought no peace. Villagers shunned them, believing Rani cursed, while soldiers mysteriously died, their bodies drained of fluids. Rana blamed herself, but Longsword recognized Orlok's hand at play. His hunt for the vampire ended in heartbreak when he returned to find Ron possessed by Orlok's spirit. Forced to defend himself, he killed her. As her life faded, she regained clarity, asking him why, a question that haunted him long after she passed. Back in the present, Longsword warns Callan to forget him, the book, and their encounter. As she reluctantly departs in a taxi, she begins to process the surreal events. Unbeknownst to her, the cab driver is none other than Orlok, silently steering her toward an unknown fate. The shadow of Orlok's malevolence looms large, with Callan and Longsword caught in his eternal game of power and plague. Chapter 3. Garden of Darkness. Bronwyn Callan awakens in an unfamiliar cathedral, disoriented and unsure how she arrived. Her confusion turns to horror as a rat bites her hand. Stumbling, she finds herself surrounded by an unsettling congregation. Orlok, his followers drawn from the margins of New York society, and a seething horde of rats. When Callan tries to leave, she is restrained. Orlok explains his choice of followers, calling the outcasts and forgotten the perfect soldiers driven by desperation and a willingness to fight for even the smallest hope. He boasts of leading similar forces during both World War I and World War II, reveling in the chaos he unleashed across history. With a sinister grin, Orlok begins recounting another tale of Longsword's exploits, this time during the Vietnam War, a chapter meant to tarnish the heroic image Callan has of him. Longsword, tasked by Major Benson with a covert mission, ventured deep into Cambodia to investigate a mysterious prisoner of war camp. Accompanied by soldiers Woyazki and Kuntz, the mission turned grim when Woyazki stepped on a punji stick. Knowing he wouldn't survive the venom, Woyazki took his own life. As Longsword and Kuntz pressed on, they came upon a gruesome scene. Burned and dismembered corpses, some partially eaten. The severed hands of the dead were missing their thumbs, a practice Longsword recognized from the brutal campaigns of Attila the Hun. Fear and paranoia overtook Kuntz, leading to a violent struggle where he lost his thumb. Captured by a group led by Sergei Mihalik, a former Soviet corporal, the pair were taken to the camp. Mihalik revealed he knew Longsword's true nature. Strung up and desperate, Kuntz begged for help, but their captor soon emerged, Orlok himself. Orlok offered Longsword a dark bargain, kill Kuntz, and he would allow Longsword to end his own life. Left with no other option, Longsword complied, only to realize too late that Orlok had no intention of honoring the agreement. Finishing the tale with a malicious laugh, Orlok mocks Callan's faith in Longsword, accusing him of using her as bait. Callan retorts that Longsword tried to warn her away, but Orlok gleefully points out that the warning came when she was already too deeply entangled. To her shock, Longsword reveals himself, confirming Orlok's claims. He apologizes to Callan, acknowledging the manipulations that brought her into this deadly web. Yet he insists there is far more at stake than her life. Steeling himself, Longsword declares his readiness to face his destiny and end Orlok's reign of terror once and for all. The stage is set for a confrontation centuries in the making, as Callan finds herself a pawn in a game far older and darker than she could have imagined. Chapter 4. Cathedral Sinister. In the heart of the cathedral, tensions ignite as Longsword confronts Orlok, vowing to protect Callan and thwart Orlok's sinister plans. As Orlok mocks him, his followers lock the doors, sealing the battlefield. Longsword orders Callan to run up the stairs, but her escape is interrupted when one of Orlok's disciples grabs her. In the struggle, she kills her attacker, shaken but determined to survive. Reaching the tower, Callan confronts Longsword about his actions, accusing him of using her as bait and forcing her to take a life. Longsword admits his manipulation but remains unapologetic, claiming it was a necessary sacrifice to confront Orlok and end the plague of death he represents. Meanwhile, Orlok strengthens himself by draining one of his followers, Ralph, feeding on him to prepare for the final confrontation. As his followers ascend to capture Callan, chaos erupts. Longsword and Callan reach the top of the tower, but as Orlok's minions burst in, the floor beneath Callan gives way. Longsword attempts to save her, but he is struck by a harpoon and falls through the collapsing structure, striking several rafters on the way down. Separated, Callan fights off two of Orlok's followers, sending them plummeting to their deaths. Amidst the crumbling cathedral, Orlok's rats turn on him, sowing chaos among his ranks. Callan finds the injured Longsword and, despite the harpoon lodged in his body, drags him towards safety. She sets fire to the cathedral as their only hope of destroying Orlok's dominion. As the flames spread, Orlok ambushes Callan, blocking her path. Desperate, she grabs a shard of glass and stabs him in the eye, but his monstrous strength sends her flying across the room. Moving in for the kill, Orlok is interrupted by Longsword, who challenges him in a final showdown. Their centuries-long struggle culminates in a brutal battle. Longsword declares that if they must perish, they will do so together. In a climactic moment, his sword falls from the tower above, impaling both himself and Orlok. The two adversaries are consumed by the inferno as the cathedral collapses around them. Escaping the blazing ruin, Callan watches the flames engulf the cathedral. She silently prays for the fire to consume the very bones of Orlok and Longsword, erasing their dark legacy from the world forever. Yet, as she reflects on how a mortal can kill the undead, she feels a sinister change. Orlok's rats swarm around her, a chilling omen of her transformation. In the final twist, Callan becomes the new Nosferatu, carrying the curse forward into a new chapter of terror. Our nerdy thoughts. This series masterfully blends gothic horror, historical drama, and psychological intrigue. Each chapter deepens the mystery, intertwining past and present, while exploring themes of sacrifice, manipulation, and the enduring battle between good and evil. What did you think of this tale? Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments. And if you're new to the series, now is the perfect time to dive in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into your favorite horror comics. Until next time, stay spooky.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.